Hello and welcome to the Business of the Business podcast. I am your co-host, JP John Poz, for the two-man power trip. Of course, joining me is the financial wrestling genius himself, Mr. Lavie Margolin. Lavie, how you doing today, sir?
Hey, John, I'm doing well. For long-time viewers or listeners, this won't be a surprise, but obviously, given the theme of our show, it's a surprising thing to say. But, John, I went out of my way this week to watch modern pro wrestling. I watched the replay on YouTube of the MLW Kings of the Coliseum show because it was reported as being sold out. We know that it's a 2,400 seat venue, so I was watching really closely to try and confirm like what's the attendance really like.
Yeah, so what did you think? Because it said sold out. It said 2,400 people. So what did you think about King of the Coliseum? Big time show with Riddle and Kojima.
Yeah, so firstly, I was surprised that the venue was so dark. I'd have to go back to look at when they had taped there years ago and did really well with of course, the Von Erichs and so on. But when things were the crowd was shot, or even snuck into the scene, like I couldn't see any empty seats, so it looked packed out to me. I don't know if the entranceway set up would kill some seats, but it looked as full can be, and not that like people were put on one side or the other. So that number is what it seems to be. That's like really impressive. It was a fun show. They did a nice job of building to Matt Riddle's title win. Like it just felt important within the context of what they do. I think Matt Riddle is a good choice. I know, obviously, there's certain accusations about him, some of which might have led to his departure from WWE. We don't know the full story on that. But, I mean, when you're in a position like MLW, a challenger brand, you need attention. A lot of people are signed up. You have somebody that's one of the most well-known stars out there who seemingly is willing to commit to you primarily, and then work bookings around you, even apparently to move away from AAA because CMLL has a relationship with MLW, even if you don't work CMLL. So, that just seemed like a smart move and smart way to go. The thing that was like a little bit sad about it, but I mean, I guess it speaks well business. There's just so much going on in wrestling now that if a show like this was put out in 2018, there wouldn't have been so many choices where you'd be like, okay, let me check this out. But even that night, there was other choices. I am not sure if GCW ran, if that was when the Reality of Wrestling thing was available on Title Match, AEW, right, if it was Saturday night. So there's just so many choices.
So can you confirm or maybe deny? Was it 2,400 or do we really not know what the total is really what it was?
We don't know, but MLW tweeted it. Then PW Insider was reporting I just said MLW said it. So I think they're cautious because sometimes the MLW numbers might be high. So they were careful about that as well. But clearly a success. And obviously they rebooked the same building again because of its success. And John, I don't know, if you remember, but it was like pre-pandemic that they were trying to run this building again, and then it seemed like they had to move. Like there was for whatever reason issues or conflicts or whatever. So it's good to be back. This is like a good staple venue to work from. Just one more piece about MLW that. Like many, they're coming to Center Stage February 8th. So tickets are moving along, I guess just 3 weeks out, but 309 tickets distributed of 772 capacity.
When you're looking at this, right, he's signed, Riddle, with MLW, right? I mean, he's the champ, but he is signed going forward.
Um, so yeah, apparently he's signed. John, just checking on a technical matter. Is anyone in our waiting area?
Not yet. No.
Okay. Just a heads up that they think they are. So
I just sent him an email telling him
okay.
make sure
Okay. Great.
Make sure they're doing it
You are the
properly.
professional, John. I'm just winging it on the side.
So Riddle is signed with MLW for the future, and then obviously Center Stage is going to be a big show coming up.
Yeah, so they're clearly out of the 2300 arena cycle, and Georgia has done really well for them at points in the past. So tickets moving along here. As we see, and we'll talk about GCW later, sometimes you can't predict exactly what things will end up like, even if they're slow. But, in terms of Center Stage, 772 capacity, so 309 tickets distributed thus far.
As far as NWA is concerned, we'll touch on this while we're waiting, hopefully, for the guests to pop in. What's going on with William Patrick Corgan?
So it looked like Dallas really picked up with a recent show that they did there, one of their tentpole events. They had tweeted out, "Thank you to great friends in Dallas. Last night was memorable for many reasons." And Corgan had said that it was sold out in Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you who have supported us. So big state, but a lot going on there in Texas. Based on what was visible, it looked like all the seats were there. Maybe some were more restricted than others. And interestingly, from the NWA, as they have their branches, we're starting to see like a little bit more synergy there. Exodus Pro, I think, which is EC3's promotion, they're going to stream for the first time on the NWA's YouTube channel. So that gives them a little bit of a bigger platform to get themselves out there.
Lavie, right now we have a legend amongst us coming in. Here he is.
Sorry, guys, I forgot to click the link that says Enter Studio sitting there. Thanks for having me on. And the fact that you wanted to have me on is ridiculous in its own right that I'm here. But great to be here.
So we're so happy to welcome Jeff Bukantz, a legend in the world of fencing and the legacy of fencing, given his father's record and credentials in that field as well. Jeff, before we get into Maccabee Mania, the Mass Maccabee, all that great stuff, I have a quick story to share with you. So I work at City College, of course, your father's alma mater. And 10 years ago, I was talking to my boss who lives in New Jersey. And at the time, his daughter was in high school and very passionate about fencing. I'm not sure if she was just on her team or a travel team or whatever it may be. And one morning he mentioned that she's improving her skills with Jeff Bukantz. And I was like, the Mighty Maccabee? And he almost fell off his chair. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, wait till I get back to my desk. I'm gonna send you some links.
Unbelievable. A quick story about City College. The Olympic team back in 48, 52, 56, 60, when my dad was on, was made up of a lot of Jewish guys from City College. And there was a really interesting story. I'm going to be at the Palestra, the Ivy League Championships. I'm the head ref, is going to be there in a couple of weeks at the Palestra. Well, in 1958, they held the World Championships at the Palestra. And back then there were teams of 4. The United States lost 9-7 to the Soviet Union. The same Soviet Union team that won the gold medal 2 years later in Rome, the same Soviet team that took the gold and silver in individual. These were professional fencers. My dad was an overweight dentist, but they lost 9-7. My dad was 4-0. Albert Axelrod, also from City College, 3-1. So when I asked my dad, what did you think about this? He goes, all I could think about is that 2 Jews from City College almost beat the Soviet Union.
Amazing
story.
If you ever want a tour, I'm not sure when the last time you've been to campuses, let me know anytime.
Definitely, would love to. I actually spoke there a couple of years ago. It's brought back a lot of good memories.
Amazing. Let me turn over to John first.
Hi, John.
Jeff, how you doing? We've met before. I'm actually, Buzz was buddies with Kevin Sullivan. So I met you when I brought down Kevin for a signing a few years ago. So it was great, but it was funny. I was like, it's like he's an Olympian, so he knew your resume so well. He was talking about the Olympic Games, the World University Games, the Pan American. He knew your background, maybe even better than you know your background. How crazy is
I
that?
mean, Kevin, I met him once. I think it was Mike Moraldo, Ace Darling's retirement thing, or whatever. I went out to see it, whatever. And I met him. We hit it off. We became friends. And I knew something was wrong because at any time of the day, if I texted him, in 10 seconds, a text came back. When I was elected into the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame last May, I texted him, never heard back, and I knew then that something was wrong. So sad.
Yeah, so sad. What a shame.
Sad. Yeah.
Now, keep in mind about wrestling, of course. Obviously, you know Kevin from wrestling. So, how do you kind of get into? Because we're talking about your dad's, a dominant fencer. You're a dominant fencer. You're an Olympian. Like also, like, so how do you get into this wrestling stuff? Where did you find wrestling?
I was about 8 years old. It was like 1965. I have a cousin, Mike Omansky. Do you know the name? Mike Omansky?
Yeah. Sounds
sort
familiar,
of a
actually.
Wrestling historian. Yeah. When Dave Meltzer needs WWF stuff, he goes to my cousin, Mike Omansky. And the first match I ever went to was at Sunnyside Garden, a great local place in Queens. It was awesome. And the first match I ever saw was Johnny Rods against Arnold Skaaland. I'll never forget it. That's why I'm bringing Johnny Rods for a Lifetime Achievement Award to the show. No, I'll never forget it. So I got into it and I liked it. I think I learned pretty early that it was a work. I don't think I ever was deluded in that. Maybe I don't think I was such a smart kid, but I was smart enough to know that. And I just loved it and loved it. I just loved wrestling as a kid. And I remember you couldn't get into the Garden if you weren't 14. You know that?
Wow, I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yes, because of the Dick DeBruiser and who I forgot who else was in the match back in the 60s. They had a riot at the Garden. So
yes.
The New York State Athletic Commission had a 14 rule. So when I was like 12 or 10, 1967, Bruno against Gorilla Monsoon. I suckered my dad into taking me to the Garden. Wouldn't let me in. Cried like a baby and whatever. I finally got in 1970 for the Bruno versus Beppo Mongol. Remember him?
Oh, yes.
Nikolai. Beppo Mongol. Yep. And I remember the finishing sequence of the bout. The previous month, they were running off the ropes and they collided and Beppo knocked Bruno out of the ring for a countdown. Here we are, October of 1970, the month after Bar Mitzvah. And now they're running off the ropes. And this time Bruno did like the Dustin Rhodes power slam snatch out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3. No one saw it coming. So I remember the finish of the first match I ever saw at the Garden between Bruno and Beppo Mongol. I don't remember 2 lines from my Bar Mitzvah Haftorah. So you know there's something wrong with the wires up here, right?
Yes. Same with me. When I mean, God, this is 1989, 1990 here. So I'm like 7 years old at this point, but I saw Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude were in the main event. But I remember Hercules and Iron Mike Sharp were in the first match because my dad's friend that went with us, him and Iron Mike Sharp like got into it. And I like remember it vividly to this day. I'm like, I can't believe they almost like got into it. They were like nose to nose.
If not for Iron Mike Sharp, my match against the Sheik, whatever badness it was, would have completely collapsed. So we can get into that later. Mike Sharp was the unsung hero of that show.
We will definitely get into that. I love that. But why the return of Maccabee Mania? What is going on? Why is it back? When is it? Why is it back?
So what happened was a year and a half ago, I was at a Maccabee USA golf outing in Philly. And at the cocktail hour, one of the guys said, listen, I got to leave early. I got tickets for the Phillies game. I'll see you down the road. Gives me a hug. Get home that night. I get a text. He dropped dead of a heart attack at the game. Now, at this time, this former sort of world-class athlete was 247, it was horrible shape, high blood pressure, everything. I started walking an hour a day for 7 months. I completely changed my diet. Half the people that didn't see me in a year half said, did you take Ozempic? The other half said, did you have cancer? But what happened was I walked for 7 months and I started eating healthily, stopped ordering in, and I lost 60 pounds. I'm 186. I fenced most of my career like 195 to 205. So I'm in the best shape I've been in my life, I think. And I sort of said, okay, now I'm in shape. And also my arc in Maccabee USA, I've been involved since 1981 as an athlete. Now I'm president. This is my 8th and final year, 2nd and final term. And after that, that's sort of it. There's nothing else to do. So I figured, why not? And it hit me unbelievably. Do you know who Brian Zane is?
Yes.
Wrestling with the Great. He asked me to come to his table at the WrestleCon in Philly. I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, no, come. Then he pulled out. Then Kevin Sullivan asked me to come. So I'm a nobody. He asked me to come, and then he had some heat with someone. He says, I'm not going. And then Ken Patera, who's my friend since 1978, he says, why don't you come as the Maccabee? So I did it. And I put this stuff on. I was still, it's ridiculous. People came up to me, knowing who I was, asking to take pictures, buying posters, buying pictures. I would have paid them $20 to take a picture with me. So Patera says to me, I think you have another match in you. And then there's another friend of mine, Andy Weinberg, who's an outstanding heel manager in the indie thing. Awesome. Yes. Been around forever, ECW days. We became good friends because he's the Maccabee golf chairman. We just became best friends. He goes, Maccabee, why don't you do one more match? I said, all right, I'll do it. I'm 67. I have 2 hip replacements. I've had 2 matches in my life. I trained at Mike Sharp's school twice in my life. So the whole thing is somewhat nuts.
I love it. What a gimmick. Do you mind like working and training with the mask on? Do you mind, or is it easier for you? Like, how does that work?
Working with or without the mask is no day in the park for me. But I remember when I went down to Mike Sharp's school, he says, I want you to put the mask on when we're practicing. He says, you have to get used to it. It's a very different feeling. So you're asking me this question, but I've been in the mask for a total of 30 minutes in my life, I think. I haven't worn it that much. And then, okay, WrestleCon, I'm there as the Maccabee. And people are coming up to me. Double digits. I could not believe it. So then Gian and Paige Megan, do you know them, the Megan boys? Yes. They used to take care of the Sheik at the end because their father was friends with him. They knew me because when they were doing a documentary on Sheiky, they couldn't get video from WWE. They had video from those DVDs, Grandmasters of Wrestling. Can we have it? I said, of course you can have it. So I was in their documentary they did on the Sheik. And I'm in the one that the WWE did as well. I am in both documentaries on the Iron Sheik. Think about the perversity of this. It's ridiculous. So they had a fundraiser up in Toronto. He goes, you still got your gear? I said, yeah, you want to come? Yes, I went and found the boots, these blue boots. They were sitting somewhere for 28 years. They were green. So I had to get them re-dyed and everything. It was pretty funny. Probably took me half an hour to tie the laces to get the boots on. It was ridiculous. So they're having a Royal Rumble type thing. I said, I'm not going over the freaking top rope. She says, go through the middle rope. So I'm going to be the 4th guy in. And do you remember Commander Aziz?
Oh, God, yeah. Monster.
Goes by Baba Thunder. He's the 5th guy in. I'm the 1st guy out. And he's going to throw me over the top rope. Now, luckily that day, the ring was not as high as it normally is. It was like a foot off the ground. So this guy was actually able to not throw me, place me on the ground, and somehow I didn't kill myself with that. I have to say I was a bit scared.
Crazy. What's like the inspiration behind the gimmick itself, Mighty Maccabee? Like what is it? Like what's the inspiration?
One day in the end of '92, I was at lunch with my buddies, happened to be Maccabee fencing alums. We still work together. And I have to raise money for the fencing team. They had 12 fencers and a coach. It's 13, 5,000 per to send them. It's 65 grand. Raising money is a pain in the ass and it's not fun. I said, what could I do to make this fun? So one of them says, you love wrestling. Why don't you do a wrestling show? He said that my eyeballs got the size of cantaloupes because he knew right then I was going to do it. So the Maccabee Games, a derivative of Judah the Hammer Maccabee. I said, this is perfect. I'll just do the Mighty Maccabee, and Ken Patera is my friend. We'll do a tag team, of course. And who better? Who's the perfect heel to go against the Jewish guy? It's the Iron Sheik. And I knew a couple guys in the business other than Patera. Do you remember a guy, Jonathan Gold? He used to be in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Oh, God, yeah. Very well.
He passed away, unfortunately. We had become fast friends since 1984. So he knew everybody. He ran the show for me and everything. And he got me all these guys. And I put the show together. Let's see if we can do it. Here it is. So it was Patera and me against Sheik and Sharp. Nikolai against the Iron Sheik. Sheik doing a double shot. Killer Kowalski, can you believe that? Against Baron von Raschke. Battle of the Claws. And then as a goof, Dominic DeNucci against Baron Cicluna, rematch from 1967 at Madison Square Garden. Cheetah Kid against Iron Mike. He worked twice too. Misty Blue Linda Dallas. So I got a call one day from Cicluna. He goes, I'm not coming. Not coming to your show. I said, why not, Baron? He goes, Davey O'Hannon told me not to go. He has heat with John Gold. Not coming. I said, okay, he didn't come. So a guy from ECW, Philly at the time, Tri-State, Johnny Hotbody took his place, and that was it. We did it. I lived in a cul-de-sac. The town closed off the cul-de-sac. We put up a tent and everything. I had about 350 people there. To this day, I don't even know who was there. And I raised about 20 grand for that. And it was quite successful. 97, I said, I got to do it again. But my ex-wife says to me, you can do this stupid wrestling thing, but you can't do it at the house, because all the guys stayed at the house. Sheik was at the house. Volkov was at the house. Patera was at the house. Von Raschke was at the house. And the best was on the night before we all got trashed at this local restaurant called Nero's. Sheik orders a gigantic steak at 11:30. We're ready to leave. I said, what are you doing? He goes, you're paying, I'm eating. So that night, my back staircase, the cleaning girl had come that day. We didn't have runners. So she must have buffed the staircase. 2 a.m, you hear boom, 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 bang. And on the landing there is Baron Von Raschke like this with that stupid face, holding his beer, goes, didn't spill a drop. It was a freak show. It was a really unbelievable. And I got away with it somehow. I was like throwing a wedding. I never did it before. And I will say the hardest thing for me, and I still bust Patera, I'm getting the crap kicked out of me. And you know the term blowing up? Yes. Well, I blew up. I mean, I couldn't breathe. My tongue's hanging out of my mouth. I crawl over. I make the hot tag to Patera. He cleans the house for like 20 seconds, and he tags me back in. I could not breathe. So I still give him grief over that to this day. So 97, we came back. We did it at Livingston High School. Let's take a look at this one. You can see the poster?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Mighty Maccabee against Iron Sheik. My cousin Mike Omansky says, Jeff, you can't do a singles match. I said, Mike, we'll do enough bells and whistles that we'll figure it out. I'm doing the singles match. Kamala, who no-showed, against Iron Mike Sharp. John Gold got King Kong Bundy to replace him. Didn't have to do that. Didn't have to pay him the $500, but it's pretty cool that he came.
Yep.
Volkov against Bigelow. Superfly Snuka against Metal Maniac. Best match in the show was Ace Darling against Dangerous Devin Storm. Dangerous Devin Storm, you know who he is, right?
Crowbar, oh yeah.
Yeah. Doink the Clown, who was Mike Kalua, against Steve Corino. And again, like 350 people, whatever it is, I don't remember. I raised about 30 grand. So an average of 25 grand for each of the two shows. I videoed it as a keepsake, like a wedding or bar mitzvah. A couple of years down the road, Michael Mansky's working for a company called Digiview. He's chief officer or whatever. Their number one vendor was Walmart. They produced DVDs for Walmart's Dollar Bin, where they basically made a nice package, made chicken salad out of chicken shit, and they sold it for $1. He goes, you want to put it up, you get a 2-cent royalty. I said, go ahead. They wound up selling 650,000 copies of Grandmasters of Wrestling. And the Mighty Maccabee, if Andy Warhol knew how long my 15 minutes of fame had lasted, he'd be rolling in his grave, because the whole thing developed a whole new life of its own.
Amazing. Crazy. Absolutely amazing. And the very interesting part is you mentioned Crowbar. You'll be fighting Crowbar. Of course, it's March 2nd coming up from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Livingston High School. Bell time is 1. Actually, meet and greet starts at 11:30. But the Livingston High School coming up again, Livingston, New Jersey, big. Maccabee Mania 3, you versus Crowbar. So a lot of, there you go.
Look at the guns on the Maccabee. Look at those guns.
Yes.
Not bad. I was Kurt Angle was nice enough to do a promo for me the other day. I sent him an email. In 5 minutes, the promo was in my Instagram account. That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I showed him a picture. I was in, believe it or not, Boca Raton Championship Wrestling, another Jewish themed thing. MJF was down there a couple weeks ago. And they happened to have a Maccabee Mayhem match where the winner was going to get a check for $5,000. Austin Idol couldn't catch that one. And they had me come in the outfit. Oh, by the way, I set a personal best record. I tied the boots in 20 minutes this time. I got in the ring, flexing and holding the check, and that's all I had to do. And that was it. And I sent the picture to Kurt Angle. And I said, I think my pecs at 67 are better than Ric Flair's were. And he goes, you're damn right they are.
Now, let me hand it over to Lavie. He's got some great questions, including about the Grandmasters of Wrestling.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. I think Jeff already answered all of my potential questions, but we have so much more fun things to talk about. So in terms of your championship reign, from what I understand, it's over 10,000 days. Now, have you considered reaching out to Mil Mascaras, who's been holding that IWA title since the mid 1970s to kind of unite
Well,
this lineage.
I think that's a work number personally, but I will tell. Just kidding. I will tell you that I did a little research. Obviously, it's a joke. I'm having fun. Name someone else who's the longest tenured WWE, WWF, WWF, or WWE champion.
Bruno Sammartino.
Nope.
Fabulous Moolah?
Yes, you got it.
Oh,
September 1856, July 23rd of 84, when she lost to Wendy Richter. 10,170 days. Mine will be 10,228 days.
Nice.
Pretty funny.
So in terms of the first two Maccabee Manias sort of taking on a life of their own with like Grandmasters of Wrestling, of course you were aware of like the DVD or VHS sales success, but when did you realize it became like sort of like an underground cultural fascination?
I don't mean to push your opposition, but it was when someone sent me a YouTube link from Wrestling with Regret, Brian Zane's thing, reviewing Grandmasters of Wrestling. When I saw that, I was crying from laughter. He trashed it so bad. It was great. You know, in fencing, the Los Angeles Times called me the John McEnroe of fencing because I was a bad guy. I was a heel fencer. And that was a badge of honor. For me to get trashed in the YouTube thing was like a badge of honor. Of course it was terrible. I'm not a wrestler. He's got 1,150,000 hits on those two reviews of Grandmasters of Wrestling. So that now made a new life of the whole thing. It was crazy. That's why he's coming. I mean, he's going to be at my show, Brian Zane.
So how are you going to distribute this third one? Is it going to be through Brian's YouTube channel? Are you going to have it professionally recorded?
What I'm trying to do, somebody I work with in fencing who does like the World Fencing live feed and National Fencing live feed, we're going to try to work something out for a live feed. But right now, it looks like it's just going to be at a live event for now.
So, you know, in terms of a long-time friendship with Ken Patera, he seems like someone that might be difficult to approach cold. Sort of like, so how did you make this connection and how did you keep the relationship going?
It's funny you say that because it was the opposite. Did you guys ever hear of the Super Bowl of Wrestling at the Orange Bowl, January of 1978?
Yes.
Harley race against Superstar Graham, Patera against Rhodes in the semi. Horrible night, raining, disgusting, terrible. You know, of course, as a mark, I had to fly down there, whatever I was, 20 years old. I wanted to be a sports reporter, so I always carried a little cassette recorder to interview people. Patera comes out of the ring. They were miserable with the rain. He's got Dusty's blood all over him. And I go right up to him, right on the infield. I go, would you mind doing an interview? And he goes, yeah, I'll do one. Let me just take a shower. Wait for me here a half an hour. I'll come out and do it with you. Very nice guy. He came out. He goes, listen, I need a ride to the hotel. You want to take me? I said, yeah, I'll take you. We wound up drinking till 4 a.m. That's how I met Ken Patera. I must have had 15 Miller Lights, didn't get 1 inch off the ground. Because I'm a mark. This guy I saw on TV a couple days earlier, and now I'm drinking with him. And the whole night got crazy because about 3 a.m, Harley Race walks over to say hi to Patera. I said, what's going on here? And I go, nice show tonight, Harley, meaning like, you did good job. And he goes, yeah, if I only had another second, I would have beaten him. So I give Patera a shot in the ribs, like, I think I sort of didn't mean it that way. And he goes, Jeff, professional courtesy. It's not exactly like you know who he is. So it was a very crazy night. And Patera, after that, we became best friends. So this is a long time already.
So you had mentioned at the first two shows that there were some no-shows and so on. And it's been a while, so you can use names or not, whatever you think is professionally appropriate. But when you started reaching out to people, did anyone be like, okay, this is an opportunity to get a few bucks and try and work you? Any crazy stories like that?
I have one. First of all, I'm a little nervous because Kamala already no-showed his plane when I'm at Newark Airport. Livingston High School called me at like 4:30 on Friday afternoon to say they didn't have the proper insurance. The show was off. I'm not kidding. Luckily, my buddy Tommy Rosenberg held the show together. I picked him up at the airport. He somehow got through to Livingston High School, and we worked it out. So now that I almost lost the show, Kamala no-showed. I'm waiting for the Sheik on his plane from Atlanta. No Sheik. The plane's empty. Finally, he comes out with the bandana, limping horribly. Sheik was not in good shape. And as we're walking up the runway, he goes, I have to go in first tomorrow. I have a show in like Birmingham tomorrow night. I said, wait a minute, Shiki. We're the main event. Everyone's coming to see us. We're going on at like 3:30 or 3 o'clock. You're not going on at 1 o'clock. And I said, okay, I knew what was happening. How much are they paying you for the show tonight in Birmingham? He goes, $500. I said, okay, I'll pay you $1,000. He's getting $5 now. I gave him $1,000. So he worked me for $500. It was the best $500 I ever spent.
So the look of the mask, to me, that looks less WWF Madison Square Garden and more either maybe the Bullet Bob Armstrong or even like the Intelligent Super Destroyer. What was the inspiration for the mask?
I don't really remember. When I was speaking to, I think it was a company, if I'm correct, Carl and Hildegard in Ohio, they sent me, there was no internet back then, so they put me in the mail a brochure, and I saw that one. I said, okay, let's go with that one. It was nothing deeper than that. Put the M up here, the 2 Jewish stars on the ears. But the singlet I thought was pretty cool.
Now, how did you get the guns? Is that something like fencers? Like, are you training and have big muscles naturally, or is there a workout routine?
No, I had huge legs. You have huge thighs because everything is off the thighs. My front thigh was 2 inches bigger than my back one from landing on the lunging. To buy pants, and I had a big ass to begin with, was like impossible. But no, not like that. What happened is I was going through a sort of like the midlife crisis where I figured, I got a personal trainer. Let's see what I can do. It was nothing deeper than that. And then as the show was going on, she was a bodybuilder. She tried to bulk me up the best that she could with a 40-year-old guy who had never done this. So that's as much as I had. That's all I had right there.
So before committing to this third show with Crowbar against you in the main event, did you have a call with Crowbar, and did he think you were a little bit Michigana, or he was all in?
No, on the contrary. We stayed friends, and I called him one day to say, I'm going to do one more match. I didn't have the courage, guts, or chutzpah to even ask him. Without a blink, he goes, Maccabee, I'll work with you. He said it. It was that's a good guy. And you know something? I'll tell you a story. In fencing, there was a referee who was also an EMT. And I said, you are the perfect person. Because if you make a horrible call that causes someone to have a heart attack, you can also revive them. And I said, with Chris, his job is a physical therapist. So it's also the perfect thing. If something happens to me, which is possible, he's the guy that will put me back together, hopefully.
Wonderful. Let me turn it back to John.
So give us all the deets where everybody can go, website, everybody can get tickets. Give us all the deets on this awesome Maccabee Mania 3.
So it's going to be let's see, can we get this up?
Yeah. Yep.
www.maccabeeusa.com/MM3, which stands for Maccabee Mania 3. Here's the QR code. And we're selling tickets that are going to include the poster. It'll be bigger than this. The old school poster, 17 by 26 cardboard poster. The T-shirt, which will be, if you know that the last T-shirt that I'm wearing, you know how popular this is? I think someone was offering it for $150 on eBay, and it's sold. It's crazy. So you get, it's crazy. The T-shirt, the poster, 2 autographed pictures of the Mighty Maccabee, a really cool VIP credential, and it's going to be just a fun time, a meet and greet with the wrestlers. It's possible in the last couple of weeks, depending how things go, I might put $35 tickets on sale. But the objective is to try to raise money for the organization so that's why we're doing the higher price ones to start. And may I tell you a story about Freddie Blassie?
Yes.
So one has to ask. Let's see if we get it here. Special appearance, classy Freddie Blassie performing Pencil Neck Geek. Where the hell did that come from? So you guys are a little bit young. Do you ever hear the song? You remember the song?
Yes. Yep.
So it was back in 76 or 77. I don't remember. I was at camp. Did you guys, Lavie, you went to summer camp?
Yes, I went to Mosheva.
So I went to Camp Scatico. And because I was a counselor there for a number of years, and I was always into wrestling became a thing at camp. And that's the way it goes. You have a counselor with personality that likes something, the kids like it too. So that year we played Pencil Neck Geek in the bunk all the time. Now I'm in charge of the sub-senior, the 13, 14-year-old Camp Sing. I'm teaching the song. So you do one Billy Joel song, you do one other song, you put your own words in, and I threw in Pencil Neck Geek. And one of my buddies at camp, Tommy Rosenberg, was Pencil Neck Geek. So we're all singing the song, the whole 120 boys side, and at the end, nothing but a Pencil Neck Geek. The whole camp points to Tommy Rosenberg. So I said, okay, now it's 1997. I contacted Ed Cohen or someone at WWF or whatever they were, WWF. I said, can I get Blassie? He's available for personal appearances. So we got Blassie out there to sing Pencil Neck Geek. And I had another friend, Eric Rosenberg, one of my fencing buddies. He was the guitarist who Blassie poked in the private. Did you ever see that?
No, I don't remember that.
Oh, you guys it's really hilarious. If you go to YouTube, Fred Blassie singing Pencil Neck Geek, it was funny. And Tommy Rosenberg, the guy that the camp pointed at, was holding up a chorus sign every time we got to the chorus, and Blassie was getting really pissed off. It was very funny. So here we are. It's so many years later, and then we're going to give out the first ever Pencil Neck Geek Award to Tommy and Eric Rosenberg. I mean, so it started in 1977 or 76, and here we are a half a century later, and that will be the end of that little, just a fun thing.
Nice. Awesome.
But I want to say, on the show, the first time I did it, I got all the big names, old WWF names. Most of them are gone. And we're going to have a 10-bell salute for a lot of them. Most of them are gone. And my goal was that anyone who was living was going to be invited to this show. Mike Maraldo doesn't want to wrestle anymore, but he's running the back. Dangerous Devin Storm is Crowbar. He'll be there. Ken Patera, God bless his soul, he'll be there. When I contacted Mike Kalua, King Kalua, who was Doink the Clown, he says, Jeff, I don't really have the outfit anymore. Would you mind if I just come as my regular gimmick? I said, yeah, you can come as your regular gimmick. And I got someone else to play the Doink the Clown, which is hilarious. I think that was pretty much that. Michael Mansky is going to be the ring announcer again. He did a really good job. And I think that's – so here's what I was going to say. There's a local promotion in New Jersey, Independent Superstars of Pro Wrestling. Do you guys know Tommy Fierro?
Oh, very well. I just saw him last week.
So I used to go to a couple of Tommy's shows, and somehow he knew who I was. This Maccabee thing was ridiculous. I said, I just came as, I couldn't believe it. So when I decided I wanted to do this, I called him up out of courtesy because I said, Tommy, I'm doing a show. I'm going to use some of your guys, and I'm doing it in your turf, even though you don't own it. And he goes, no problem and everything. He goes, but it would mean a lot for him if he could co-promote the show with me. Hence, ISPW, Maccabee USA. And I said, absolutely, Tommy. So I'm using a lot of his guys. And what I wanted to bring up is some of these guys. In my first show in 1993, there was a guy, Mr. Motion. Did you happen to see the DVD?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Scrawny, skinny Mr. Motion. Couldn't have weighed more than 160 pounds. Well, now he's here as Michael Morris. He's two Mr. Motions right now. So he's on the show as well. But Tommy has a lot of good guys. And I wanted to bring them the best guys I saw there, like GKM, Ray Kalitri, the Now Against Sent to Slaughter. They do a great match together. And hopefully it'll be a really good show. I have booked too many matches. I overbooked it because I'm a mark, and that's what marks do. So instead of having 8 12-minute matches, there'll probably be a few 6-minute matches. We'll keep it moving, and everyone will have a good time, and everyone will get a fair payday as well.
Nice. Awesome. Jeff, thank you so much for all the time today. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the show. March 2nd, Livingston High School, Maccabee Mania 3. Yes, awesome title belt too. Awesome, Jeff. Thank you.
You know who made this?
No.
Adorable Adrian Street.
Oh, get out of here.
Yep. Somehow, I don't know who I got to. I got to him, and he came up with the design and made the belt. It was really very nice.
Awesome. Good luck, Jeff. Thank you so much. Appreciate all the time today.
I hope you guys can make it.
Yes. I'm not that far, so I'm going to try to make it.
Please come as my guest, of course. Thanks for having me on, guys. It was really nice to meet you. And nice to see you again, John.
Yes. Great, Jeff. Great to see you. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. So long.
Bye.
All right, Lavie, let's talk about some news here, Lavie, as I'm switching some stuff around. Let's talk about GC Dub. I'm hearing that they're adding extra seats for the big show on the 19th.
Yeah, so just, a quick primer, right? Tickets were off to a slow start with the Hammerstein Ballroom, right? There was all those expectations. 2025, AEW booked. There's a lot of wrestling going on in town, all that sort of thing. But they cut it down to 1,500, which was basically the AEW number of tickets, even though the setup wasn't going to be exactly the same. But those tickets sold, and as we're recording on a Friday, the show is on a Sunday, so they'll even do more. Brett had done an interview where he said that ticket sales were over 100,000, which makes sense. It's a pretty expensive venue. I don't know what it is to rent it out days, and I could totally be misremembering this or wrong, but I believe that it had been publicly listed years ago as like a $30,000 venue rental. Of course, prices could vary. That might have been a public number, but if you're a regular promoter, it could vary and so on. But just all of that is to say that it's an expensive venue. So even if you're doing 100,000 gate, a fair amount of that might just be going towards the rent. So you really have to do well and above that to have a successful event, but they're certainly on the road for that. So thought to open up as many seats as seems viable, which it's just the second balcony, so they can do that. I don't know how long the valves take to turn on and off with Ticketmaster is needed, but I will be there as we've talked about. So I'll try and snap a picture for us and also for WrestleTix for the show. So let's say that show goes well, then building on some momentum, because we've been talking about some difficulties in ticket sales for GCW. London is already sold out on January 26th. We haven't heard too much about the show in France that they're co-promoting. We wouldn't necessarily need to, right? Because it would be more local promotion, but two potential wins for GCW ahead. And then at a later week, we could look at some of the more on-the-ground ticket sales in 2025.
So as far as GCW, they might be selling some more tickets than AEW did because they're opening up more tickets. So that's just another little wrinkle there, just to throw it out there. Just interesting to me that they're going to outsell AEW.
Yeah, that was my sort of like, and of course, I might have predicted other things at different times too, but that was sort of my expectation that since AEW had a limited number of ticket sales, that GCW could outsell them. I don't think they'll do the 2025 unless Matt Cardona's opponent is named as someone spectacular or some sort of news breaks, but obviously they'll be well ahead of 1,500.
TNA, WWE, what is going on here? This is huge news for NXT and TNA. Well, really for TNA, but man, what is going on here?
Yeah, so a lot of, I guess, flirting for over a year, right? Certainly Jordan Grace at the Royal Rumble last year and all of that, and it's all been great. And this relationship, we know we don't know the exact length, but we know that it's a multiple years long relationship. It formalizes things. It's pointed more, it seems, towards the NXT side, which basically has been where TNA has crossed over and NXT Stars has crossed over to them. We don't know too much more about it. It does seem just to be a win-win, especially for the companies. You sort of like keep them a little bit separate, and then when one crosses over to the other, it gets a little bit of a buzz. It's something fresh. It's interesting. It gives TNA talents exposure. It gives NXT wrestlers places to work a little bit more with a little bit of a bigger crowd than the Coconut Loop, or much bigger usually crowd than the Coconut Loop. I guess the overarching question now, though, is for the ascending TNA talent who would be looking for new contracts, does it sort of make it more difficult for them to cross over to to WWE? So let's say, for example, Jordan Grace. Does WWE go back and say, like, well, we're working with TNA now, so why don't you stay over there? And when we need you, we'll bring you over. Like, is that more difficult? I think for Jordan Grace, it wouldn't be that issue, but maybe for somebody sort of like a little bit in the middle. And if they really want to break through, do they now, like for a big contract, do they now have to look at AEW? So that's a question, but it seems like a win-win at the moment.
So as far as that's concerned, obviously they've got a big show in the UBS Arena in Belmont, New York. which I know they have 4,000 seats open. They sold about, I think, 1,700 so far. So, I mean, they've got a ways to go. Obviously, the show's in July. But now the fact that NXT is teaming up with them, I fully expect to be this to be a TNA NXT show for the Slammiversary. And then I expect it to definitely not sell out completely, but really, up the ante just as far as maybe even opening it up more for more tickets.
Yeah, it'll really be interesting to see how much support WWE gives these things, sort of like looking at the other side, and the track record hasn't been great with AEW supporting its partners. You haven't seen a lot of that like support. It's been more like the bigger company being like, okay, us giving you anything is something. And WWE to date, you haven't seen big WWE, even big NXT stars that I'm aware of crossover. It's more of the contenders and so on, rather than the champions necessarily. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. So it's also sort of like New York area as its golden goose. How much do they want to support an alternative brand? It makes a lot of sense. I think it's very much needed. It would certainly spice up Slammiversary. I think you'll see some representation, but I don't know how much, like, unless WWE has an investment in TNA, I don't know how much you'll see them like pumping up their profile, like when they're renting out big arenas that they're likely to run.
New merch too?
Yeah, so I'm not too familiar with what the issues were, although I've seen things in the past where people might say, like, I ordered a TNA thing X number of weeks or months ago, and I haven't gotten it yet. I don't know if those were one-off issues or, endemic, but Front Row Joe of Team TNA said that new merch alert from TNA, since finally moving to a new vendor, fast shipment by the time it ships, better improvement. This was ordered January 2nd and got it today, January 11th. So far, happy camper. You need to start promoting. You got some new merch on sale. So his Twitter handle sounds like he works for the company, but no, he's just a big fan who orders apparently a lot of merchandise. And it seems like that's on a better path. Obviously, that's a good thing. So another interesting thing is the Genesis show, because it was very hard to tell in Garland, Texas, how they were doing. Just a certain amount of reserved tickets were available, with the rest surrounded by GA. So front row still available. However, those were premium seats, $599 each. So it didn't speak for how the show was doing overall. PW Insider had a report that the show was actually exceeding ROH's sales last time that they were in the building, which WrestleTix had in terms of tickets distributed, 1,964 tickets. Big venue, big like mid-sized venue, but if TNA does over 2,000 people in that venue, that has to be considered like a big win for them. Just looking at some other TNA shows, the Techport in San Antonio, you can't see the whole map at once, as we've talked about on other weeks, but third row still available. El Paso County Coliseum, a fairly big, I guess not fairly big, but like a mid-sized or semi-mid-sized venue. It looks like ticket sales are going decently there in terms of several rows being gone. St. Joseph Civic Center in Missouri, late March, plenty of tickets available there still. Of course, we talked about LA as the other big venue, because that's a 10,000 seat venue, and that's not too far away in April. Looks like front row tickets are still available. Obviously, a lot of issues right now in LA. It's sending good vibes there, so I don't know, if that's affecting, the ticket sales. Obviously, current events that are anywhere near there, but things are still happening. Something though to note, going back to the Belmont Park show, a fair amount of resale tickets. Some resale tickets I could see available, which you would expect, but also a fair amount of 3-for-4 ticket sale deals, which you would expect. And I think that's a smart thing to move some of those tickets along.
So as far as New Japan Pro Wrestling is concerned, how are they doing right now?
So an ambitious show, which it tends to be, they do this type of thing. Windy City Riot. Tanahashi's last show, I don't know if cachet is there, as much. People used to really be talking about Tanahashi a lot, and New Japan come to the US would be a big deal, but like AEW seems to like have grabbed a lot of that like buzz and momentum and so on. And it seems like a lot longer ago, but in April 2024, Windy City Riot did 5,283 ticket sales. Now, should this attention and momentum pick up? Maybe, but that seems like forever ago. Right now, I think it's just went like it's not even more. It's in a pre-sale mode, I think, potentially still. So nothing to be concerned about, but just to look over 1,000 tickets distributed thus far, and the setup is a little bit under 4,000. So that'll be something curious to watch. San Jose, the final, according to WrestleTix, distributed tickets 1,664. Which sort of, makes sense, going down from last year's 2,145, kind of like where it would, you would think it would sit.
What is going on with Reality of Wrestling? I know they had some big shows. What's going on next?
Yes, so the Reality of Wrestling, I think we didn't have a chance last time, or maybe the timing. I think last time the show hadn't occurred yet. So the Booker T. Zilla Fatusa, just to like put a little bow on that, they upped their production with Clear Life Media. I'll have to seek out some clips to see how that came across for their title match network show. They had a new television production truck they were using. Tickets were fully sold out, and they added standing room tickets to the Walker Texas Lawyer Arena. The ending wasn't booked as I had predicted it, but it seemed like a smart way to keep things going, where Booker T actually turned heel. So certainly a lot of room for rematches and tag teams and so on. And curious to see, given the trajectory and the interest in Zilla Fatu, and obviously getting a very rare chance to see Booker T wrestle, if they can go to a bigger venue in Houston. Houston market. I was poking around a little bit. A lot of them are like rodeo arenas, so I don't know if those are like rented out for other things. But just to show the impact that this promotion and Zilla are having in the market, Houston, Texas actually had Zilla rep the some of this new playoff gear for the Houston Texans. So that's pretty huge on their X platform.
No doubt about it. How about HHEs? Hills Have Eyes. I know there's some other stuff going on because you love, I know you live here and there, but what about Hills Have Eyes? What's going on with them?
Yeah, John, I almost called the section other, but as it's become notable here and there, I kept it
Here and
going.
there, you love it. And the Heels Have Eyes. HHE.
Yeah, so Heels Have Eyes. So West Side Gun really fulfilling what I thought maybe like Master P could do, but obviously West Side Gun is more contemporary than Master P from House of Glory. Although House of Glory just sold out Chicago Logan Auditorium, so they're doing well themselves. But West Side Gun, Heels Have Eyes, South by Southwest. So I don't know if South by Southwest is like the big thing that it used to be, but it's still a thing. So they're there. They also took over. I don't think we had a chance to talk about it yet. They took over the For the Culture slot on the Collective. So that was not without controversy, because there's another wrestler that would book those shows, and sort of like that branding was given over to Heels Have Eyes. I don't know all the machinations of that besides what was tweeted about, but they're smartly like getting out there a little bit. There was actually somebody like at the AEW taping that I was at in the Hammerstein that was holding up like Heels Have Eyes like placard. And I was trying to like Google, I was like, what does West Side Gun look like? And is that him? But as far as I could tell, that was not him. That was, I guess, a fan that was just supporting this new brand.
Now, as far as that show in Nevada, what's that Nevada, that last thing you had there?
Yeah, so Pandemonium Wrestling, Walker Stewart of New Japan is actually one of the broadcasters for this show. That KPVM, a independent over-the-air digital station in Nevada, is actually broadcasting Pandemonium live. So, of course, independent wrestling isn't as prevalent as it used to be over-the-air stations. That's not something different, though, but this isn't the first time something like this has happened, but it's really interesting to see that they're committed to the promotion to actually stream it or show it live over the air. I'm sure, doing so through broadband and so on has really cut the cost down. They don't have to go up to a satellite or anything like that. anymore to get them the content, but kind of something cool that bodyslam.net, who has a lot of good content, broke for the first time, and that's where I found the story.
It's interesting with bodyslam.net. They kind of under the radar. I feel like maybe not getting as much attention as they should. They usually break some pretty good stories, and I haven't seen them have too many swings and misses. You know, there's some other sites out there they get some. So bodyslam, they got some good stuff. When they report, when I'm following the news, they got some good stuff, and they're usually pretty accurate.
Yeah, I appreciate their work. Unsolicited advice, as I know that some of the people involved do listen from occasion. The design of the site, like I think it's black background, white on it. Like it's hard to read. And there's something about, I don't know if the ads that they use, like when I try and look it up at lunch at work, like, take a break, somehow like the server like doesn't accept it, like it blocks it. So I think if they like the content is there, they just have to find that right audience and the right trade-off to deliver the content, and I think it'll travel much better. They were the ones, of course, that had a detailed look at the wrestling fundraising in Africa, right, that everyone was behind. You never heard anything about. They had like an in-depth piece about that.
All right, good stuff today. Obviously, the Maccabee Mania 3 at Livingston High School on March 2nd. Everybody should go if you're in the New Jersey, New York area. Check that out for sure. Lavie, let's hit the plugs. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. What about you?
Follow me on X, Lavie Marg, LAVIE-MARG. Check out my long-form articles, lioncubjobsearch.com. Check out our LinkedIn group, The Business of the Business. We are distributed by the Creative Control Network. We're the official podcast of business podcast of PW Ponderings. And stay tuned. I'm crossing over my full-time work with my passion for this field in an upcoming panel related to wrestling and politics at City College. So not ready to announce it yet, but soon.
Awesome. We'll be keeping our eyes and ears open for that one. Lavie, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody out there, for listening. See you right back here next week for the business of the business. We'll see you next week, folks.